Chicago State University and our Center for Information Security Education Research, so we call it CINSER. Faculty and staff and directors, we're really excited to have you here for our first fall 2026 webinar, which is a technical webinar, will be given by our friend, Professor Kamesh Namuduri. He's a professor of electrical engineering from University of North Texas, and he's leading a Center for Integrated Intelligent Mobility Systems. And we're really excited for him to be here because of the extensive experience he has in the area. And we are really thankful for his acceptance to give this webinar. And he has now around 45 minutes to give his presentation, and then we'll leave the questions towards the end. Professor Namuduri, thank you for your time, and the floor is yours.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure and honor for me to give this presentation, and thanks to Professor Ayash and Professor Black for inviting me here to give this talk. What I wanted to do is I wanted to share my experience in this exciting project called Advanced Air Mobility over the past almost like 6-7 years or so. So I'll tell you, usually any project actually starts with a little bit of motivating moments, and this is what happened. And to be very precise, it was November 1st and 2nd. There was a invite from NASA calling the whole entire industry, aviation industry, asking them to participate in a project they called at that time Urban Air Mobility Grand Challenge. And later it took different names, and it was called Advanced Air Mobility National Campaign. So in the conference that was hosted in Seattle, 400 participants were there, and I was one of the attendee. And interestingly, since it was primarily targeted for the industry, I didn't see many universities. Probably 2 or 3 universities were there. What fascinated me is that I somehow I was able to connect my background and what is going to come in future, and I was able to participate in that national campaign as an official participant. And in fact, I went to the NASA leadership and asked them, this seems to be mostly for industry, but as a university professor, can I engage? They said, why not? Go for it. So we signed up something like a 5-year agreement. It's called, there's no funding associated with that, just something called a cooperative agreement. So those kind of vehicles or avenues are there with NASA. There is no money at all. So maybe, partly that was the reason why we didn't see a lot of university participation. But then I went to my university and I said, here is a great opportunity. I see a lot of potential, but there is no funding. Can you provide me with some seed funding? So I had some great visionaries in our department, in our college. They were able to give me like $60,000 cash to work on this project. So I hired few students and we engaged in this project as a lead entity. And then I reached out to few companies and all of them were so excited to join me. So I was able to create, I'll show you a list of companies. These are the companies that engaged with me in this project for over many, many years. In fact, the project officially opened up in 2018, but then by the time it actually started, which actually took wheels on the ground, is about 2020. And because of COVID, again, it took its own turns, but ultimately 2 years of simulations. And all these companies are involved in this. We have a team of nearly 15 organizations, including the government. NASA is providing the leadership, and FAA is providing the necessary support, and all the startup companies and big companies like Bell. A company like Bell is a big company in Dallas-Fort Worth. Startup companies like True Weather, Avianco, Unmanned Experts, and the universities included Texas A&M University in Corpus Christi. They have a FAA Center for Excellence. So with this big team, we ran about many simulations of what I call advanced air mobility ecosystem. So ecosystem consists of variety of services, platforms, and then also infrastructure providers. So together we build this partnership. I call this one of a kind public-private academic government partnership that that we were able to put together since 2021, and then in about few years, by 22, we were able to demonstrate a live experiment, a live demonstration of advanced air mobility concept, and that worked like a charm. All the companies, each of the company actually were responsible for one product or one service, and all these services worked very well. With the interoperability that is required, and then together we were able to demonstrate it, do this project. And in fact, NASA folks were telling us that this is very ambitious. And by the way, in the country there were only 3 such groups at the time. So it was extremely successful. I'm going to tell my story on this. Okay, so this is the story of advanced air mobility, a personal story, and I'm very proud of what we were able to accomplish together. And the end result is even more fascinating. Today, this year actually on April 23rd, I believe, FAA announced a new facility called CAT. CAT stands for Center for Advanced Aviation Technologies. It's one of a kind facility in the US. It is going to be built or developed in North Texas. It is led by Texas A&M University, but all universities in our area in Dallas Fort Worth are involved, and that includes UNT, which is my university, then UTD, University of Texas at Dallas, SMU, and UT Arlington. We are all involved, and more importantly, nearly about 100 companies are involved in this. So during the next 3-4 years, there will be a lot of experiments and demonstrations, and that will form the foundation for this exciting new mobility, or what I call new era of aviation. In fact, I say that it's a new dimension of mobility. So that is what is going to happen, and we are going to see, all of us are going to see in front of our eyes, this whole system is going to evolve. A lot of new things are going to come, and ultimately, what is our goal? By 2030, potentially, we are going to see air taxis and air ambulances in many cities. Hopefully, everything will go well, and that is what is happening. And it's just started actually. The CAT facility was announced on April 23rd in 2025, and next 3-4 years you're going to see all this exciting work. So I'll tell you my personal story on this. So first of all, just a small outline. So I work at UNT as an associate, as a full professor in the electrical engineering department, and also belong to Center for Integrated and Intelligent Mobility Systems. So here, not only air mobility, but we're also considering ground mobility as well. So that CINSER stands for that. Then NT cohort is something that I established with the help of a lot of industry, and I lead or co-lead this in North Texas cohort. And then we engaged with in the project of advanced air mobility under the leadership of NASA and FAA. And then there were many accomplishments we were able to achieve. And there are a lot of ongoing works, and more exciting work is going to come. And then also want to present what we wrote in the proposal to FAA. What is that we want to do in the next 4 years, 4-5 years. And then we'll leave for questions and answers. This is about UNT. UNT is an old university, and I started in 1890. Today, we have about 50,000 students. And then a lot of funding is coming, and despite the challenges we are facing today. And then CINSER it's interesting. It's a collaboration between College of Business and College of Engineering. So there are many things we can do when we actually join hands, and this is actually a demonstration of the capabilities that you will see when multiple colleges are involved. So nearly 40 faculty are involved in this interdisciplinary lab called CIMS. On the left side, you see there is an outdoor mesh at the bottom. It is one of a kind facility to allow us to fly drones without FAA waivers. So as long as we are flying within this mesh facility, we don't need a permission anyway. We don't need permission from FAA. And these dimensions are also interesting. 180 feet height and 300 feet in one dimension and 130 feet in another dimension. Actually, yeah, so it's 180, 130 and 130 feet high actually, sorry. 130 feet height, 180 and 300 on the ground. So these are the companies. And I wanted to also bring up, what is the role of university in this? Primarily industry engagement. Advanced air mobility is actually the industry engagement. However, what UNTs or universities like UNT, they have an important role. So notice that a company at the end of the day is interested in money. They want return on the investment. Whereas we as visionaries, I say that as faculty or visionaries, we want to see long term. We want to see, are we doing it safely? Are we doing it the right way? Are we providing the kind of support that we need, for example, for communications? So with this, UNT is providing this, leading these three things. One is, it's providing leadership. We work with industry. We know what industry is looking for, what we need for the community. At the same time, we are helping the industry to follow the right direction, right right initiatives, engage in right initiatives. So the second, as I mentioned in the second bullet, we are looking at use cases, security aspects, spectrum requirements, and one of the things I'm very proud of is that I saw the need for vehicle-to-vehicle communications in the airspace. Of course, we have V2V on the ground, but I saw the need for vehicle-to-vehicle communications about almost like 10 years ago. And at that time, I reached out to all the aviation companies and asked them, why can't a pilot pick up a phone and call any other pilot? They said that is actually a good idea, but it's not our high priority. But by 2020, you won't believe, the companies are really looking for protocols, V2V protocols, and even now we don't have. So what I did is I went to IEEE and asked them, how about first of all I asked them, do you have any such initiative? They said no. They looked it down and they said there's no such there's effort or standards effort going on in IEEE, and not only in IEEE, nowhere. So we started this V2V communication standard work in about 2016, 2017. And then by end of this year, you are going to see V2V standards coming up from IEEE. And I'm serving as the chair. And there are about 30 people involved, from mostly faculty and of course the industry professionals. So that is the contribution that we can do as faculty members. The third is, we also, even now if you see, we don't have this, for example, what are the real requirements, operational requirements in terms of, especially for drones. By the way, when I say drones, I'm using drones, UAVs, UAS, and all those in the common, using the same term. But actually, advanced air mobility is for unmanned air taxis and unmanned air ambulances. So this is about large vehicles capable of carrying people without a pilot. And at the same time, not only the people, but you can also carry large cargo like medical equipment. And one of the things that I'm really, really keen is to see, taking a mini hospital to a person, especially when the person is not able to move, or in a critical trauma scenarios, we will be able to take a mini hospital to the patient. Is the other way, you can also take the patient to the hospital, but in some cases, the patient cannot be moved. You need immediate attention. It is possible with this advanced air mobility platforms. It is possible to take the facilities to the patient. So that's what I want to see. Actually, that's one of my visions. All right. So how are we doing? How are we preparing for this advanced air mobility? As I said, there were some initial experiments, and I also did that experiment in Texas. But what we are looking for is a full-fledged laboratory. In fact, around sometime in last year, around this time, FAA called for RFP. it's called for a request for information. It's not even request. It's not a proposal. They ask for information, request for information, and I believe 28 proposals or submissions were there, and I submitted one, and Texas A&M Corpus Christi submitted another. But since we were from Texas, we talked with each other and then made sure that whoever gets this project, we will work together. So it happened that Texas A&M is a bigger university and they have more facilities. So their RFI was accepted. Interestingly, they were awarded. It's not, there was no other, what do you call, full-fledged RFP or anything. So just based on RFI, Texas A&M University was awarded this CAT facility that I was mentioning. So we are UNT along with other universities, we are all engaged in this. So when we were writing this proposal, I was thinking, when they asked for, can you establish an airspace laboratory? I thought, why not? We can do on campus. But when I talked to my colleagues, they said, Kamesh, airspace laboratory is not a campus, not on campus. It should be open. It should be in the city. And that's how we define airspace laboratory. 3,000 square miles area has been designated as an airspace laboratory in Texas area. That's very close to my university campus. And I'll show you the picture where you can show the map. And it was coming from another visionary in our area. His name is Ernest Huffman. Ernest Huffman is a transportation director at North Central Texas Council of Governments. So what is this? What is this entity? North Central Texas Council of Governments oversees 30 municipalities in our area. The reason I'm bringing this up is, if endeavor like advanced air mobility is not possible with one person or with one entity or with one company or one organization, it's a collective entity. So here we are working with North Central Texas Council of Governments, which supervises 30 municipalities. So that is the kind of support. On top of it, we need visionaries, we need leaders, and Ernest Hoffman is one such leader. Same way, we are getting support from NASA. There is another person called Al Capps. He is very nice gentleman, he doesn't talk much, but the amount of support that he's providing, the leadership, is very remarkable, actually. So we have such people. So everything is happening because of people like them, like Al Capps and Ernest Hoffman. And then we identified several locations and airports. I'm using the term called vertiport, which is part of the terminology of advanced air mobility. But a vertiport is think of like a small airport. Then there are lots of infrastructure services that are required. For example, communication support. And some of you might have heard these efforts like RINGS and WINDS from NSF. RINGS stands for resilient. The keyword is resilient and intelligent networking services. And WINDS is another new endeavor that is going on right now. A lot of people are involved. I'm also submitting a proposal. The point is, we need first of all a reliable, resilient communication support. Without that, advanced air mobility cannot be realized. Then we need interestingly, weather service, dedicated weather service for advanced air mobility. There's a company called True Weather. We are working with them, and they are providing. There's a startup company. There are only limited things one can do, but they have been doing excellent job in terms of providing weather service for advanced air mobility. I'll tell you a little bit more about what do you mean by weather service. We are actually looking at weather at the altitude, not just on the ground. We need to know what is weather like at 400 feet or 4,000 feet, depending on where we are flying. Small drones, by the way, fly at 400 feet, and bigger vehicles like these advanced air mobility platforms like air taxis, air ambulances, they are expected to fly anywhere above 4,000 feet to maybe 10,000 feet. So we need weather at that altitude, and that's not easy. In fact, I'll tell you a small project that I'm about to start is that we want to, for example, send many drones into the air in the early morning to just measure the weather, and that's how you start modeling. And later, anyway, if you are doing deliveries, drone deliveries, for example, as it's happening in our area, so you can measure the true weather at the exact location that you want, while the drones are delivering their doing their services or delivering their products. Delivering or for all these drone while they are engaged in the drone services, you can also measure the weather and send the data to the ground, and then you can update the model that you build in the morning. So that is something that we are working on in terms of academic research. You also need radars, surveillance radars. The reason is, even though we have transponders on the drones, like remote ID or ADS-B, those kind of devices, but sometimes some vehicles are not cooperating. Now, for example, take objects like like birds. Yeah, the birds cannot tell you where they are. So we need to see, when you're drawing the drone deliveries, we need to know, if the airspace is occupied by weather by birds. So you need to know every minor details in the airspace. And by the way, there is a project called digital twin for airspace. So digital twin for platforms, digital twin for airspace, digital twin for infrastructure. For example, communication, navigation, surveillance. These things are going on in the different parts of the world. But the point here is, there are many services that are required. I'm going to show you a small typo. Please pardon me. So we need those services, and interestingly, we don't know what other services we might be needing in future. So it shows that the topic is, this field is very rich and vast. There are some things we know now, but there are many things yet to come. Okay, and ultimately we also need a lot of collaborations, and we are collaborating with a tribal nation called Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, that is about 80 miles from our university. So notice the need for urban, rural, and tribal regions. We cannot just say urban air mobility and then deploy the services in urban areas. Of course, urban areas, urban regions need these services, but more importantly, rural and tribal regions also need this kind of service, this kind of facilities or these services. So I'll give an example. Obviously, for health point of view, emergency health services is a killer application. The numbers show that typically in an urban area like Dallas, if there is an accident, it's a road accident, and somebody needs service, emergency health service, in 5 minutes, it's possible for paramedics to go there and offer the first aids and do the basic things, and then transport the patient or the victim to the hospital in 15 minutes, 15 minutes. Those are the average statistics. But think about something happens in a rural area like Oklahoma, which is our neighboring state, especially in the tribal region or in deep rural areas. You may not be able to get anything for the first 45 minutes. It's really, it's a minimum. At minimum, it takes 45 minutes to take the person to the hospital. Now think about what this advanced air mobility services can do. Even you save 5 minutes, is going to make a difference of life and death. So that kind of digital divide exists between urban and rural areas. So advanced air mobility has the potential to bridge that kind of gap. So in fact, whenever I write a proposal, I start with that. But the potential of advanced air mobility is huge. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing is that think about what I call farm to market transportation. Suppose you have a fresh garden and fresh farm, and we want to get the best of the best fresh vegetables or fresh leaves to a restaurant. Potentially it's not at this point it's not economically viable, but there is an option, there is a provision, there is an opportunity for us to bring the fresh vegetables the early morning and prepare lunch at the restaurant and serve people. Again, at this point it is not economically viable, but those are the services that are also going to have, those going to come in future. So and the other thing is emergency communications. During disaster times, natural or man-made disasters, we need to establish communications rapidly. So again, advanced air mobility services can help us to establish to provide rapid deployment of communication services. So there are killer applications, but we need to follow methodically, meticulously, and make sure that we don't get into any accident. If there is an accident, then everything will shut down for at least for a year or so. So this project is very ambitious. The project is very essential. At the same time, they're it's extremely challenging. So that's why I see it's such an exciting and very important, at the same time very challenging as well. And the last thing I wanted to say is nothing can happen without funding. So as I said, in the very beginning, when I signed up for the Advanced Air Mobility National Campaign, there was no money. So my university gave me that $60,000, but they made me sign something. They say, you are going to apply at least 3 or 4 large proposals. They gave a number like $2-3 million. And what happened is, interestingly, not only that I applied, I brought about $5 million grants. So the seed money that came from the university made me work with excitement, and I made available all the opportunities that were presented to me. And today there are many projects that I'm leading, and almost like last 3-4 years I've been leading about $5 million project, and they are coming from Air Force, NASA, NSF, and state organizations like NCTCOG that I mentioned. And now I'll tell you who are we partnering for this going forward. See, in the beginning I showed you 15 organizations, but now the list is very large. So our partners in the CAT facility, Center for Advanced Aviation Technology facility, that is about to start. We're all partnering, but look at the list of partners. Universities, almost every university in our area. Municipalities, 30 municipalities. Like, you heard these names like Frisco, Plano, Richardson, McKinney, Allen, and so on. And companies like Textron. Textron is a parent organization of Bell, Airbus, and literally everyone, every platform, every company that wants to engage in advanced air mobility, they will be coming to this facility for testing, experimentation, demonstrations, and finally to get certifications. So you cannot do anything unless you get certified by FAA that your platform is capable of delivering these services. So now, because of the CAT facility, all these companies, everyone will be coming here. And what is for us? We get this luxury of doing some demonstration, engaging in this demonstration, testing new concepts, new research ideas. So it is very challenging, but at the same time, we will be like, the companies might be thinking we are bothering them, or we are becoming an obstacles for their work. So we have to tread the path very carefully, not disturbing their work. At the same time, we want to see the importance of research, new ideas. So we have to strike that balance of development and research. And tribal governments like Choctaw Nation, they are engaged. Companies like Joby Aviation, Beta Technologies, and then startup companies like True Weather. I just mentioned about True Weather, Unmanned Experts, Amtech, Avianco. So these are all the telecom and aviation startup companies. And then I also wanted to show you the map. Where are we going to do the demonstrations and testing in the next 3-4 years? Of course, we have airport, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. There is Dallas Love Field Airport. Perot Field is most of you know about who is Ross Perot Jr. They had a lot of real estate in our area, in Fort Worth and Dallas area. So that's another airport, regional airport, primarily for cargo. So you can see the other, if you look at the columns, how many what are the number of airport operations. So even in a Perot field, the number is significant. Then Arlington Municipal Airport, and pay attention to mineral wells. I'm going to talk about that. Mineral wells is about 45 miles from UNT, my UNT campus. I'll talk about that. Frisco is a fast developing suburb or suburban area in Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have a PGA, Professional Golf Association, in Frisco, and we have UNT campus in Frisco. So it's actually emerging as a very high-tech city. And of course, Dallas. So all these airports will be engaged. And then here is what I personally did. I led this effort from UNT with help from all the industry. So what is this? It's a first air corridor demonstration. I'll tell you what does it take to establish an air corridor. First of all, nobody can do on their own. We need FAA's permission. Because UNT was involved in the national campaign, Advanced Air Mobility National Campaign, NASA provided the leadership and it engaged FAA. So I didn't have to do anything. They actually found the route, which we call flight path or air corridor. And from where? From UNT. Look at the green dots on top. So UNT Discovery Park, that's where I work. So from there to Fort Worth Alliance Airport, I mentioned about Ross Perot's airport, private airport. That distance is about 30 miles. So we established an air corridor about 11,000 feet height from ground. Actually, from ground, there are two different, AGL, above ground level, and then there's another unit. But basically, it's about 8,000 to 11,000 feet. And that was the first of a kind in North Texas. Probably in Texas, maybe it's a second or third. And in the country, probably maybe one of the first 10 experiments that conducted in the whole country, in the nation. So we did this on October 11th. We deployed all the services, all the 15 organizations which were involved, each company responsible for one product. I'm going to show you some of those products. And then the article was published. It's a huge success story. And personally, it's very rewarding to see that we are able to lead this and starting from beginning to end. And it took about 2 years to do this project. But it was a very successful story. We published an IEEE Spectrum magazine article, and then I gave a UNT talk, TED talk in 2022. So this was a remarkable success story. And because of this engagement, now we are ready to go forward for a full-fledged demonstration of advanced air mobility through CAT facility. So we know how to make this kind of project successful. Excuse me. All right. So the route consists of about, we actually flew 2 times, by the way, from UNT to Fort Worth. The helicopter actually we used a helicopter as a surrogate. It's not truly autonomous. By the way, there is a document called Innovate 28, INNOVATE, Innovate 28. It's a document from FAA. It lays down the plan. The reason why they have 28 is by 2028, we want to see unmanned air taxis in cities. So there is a wonderful plan that FAA came up, and potentially we are going to follow the same plan. But if not by 28, by 2030, you're going to see air taxis in the airspaces. So the route, there are 2 routes actually, blue and red. So we flew 2 times from UNT Discovery, actually from Fort Worth Alliance Airport to UNT. And UNT doesn't have a vertiport, so you cannot land actually. So we flew, hovered around, and came back. But we learned a lot of things during this demonstration. So I talked about a lot of successful thing, but what did not work is that the communication was very spotty. So obviously that's a challenging. I mentioned to you, I was involved in this rings project from NSF. Now I'm applying for WINES. So both these projects are about creating an established, a resilient and reliable link, and it's not easy. So that is still remains as a huge challenge. So what do you need for that? If you want to provide a resilient communication, what do you need? You need base stations on the ground along these corridors. I'm calling these paths as corridor. A corridor is a regular route. No, if you are flying only once, we call a flight path. But if you are doing it again and again, so for example, suppose say you want to create a path from UNT to airport, Dallas Fort Worth Airport. Then you create a path, and if it is viable, you make it a standard or a regular route. So that's what we are calling as air corridor. So air corridors are standard routes like subways. So those are going to be established, but we already demonstrated the successfully one air corridor that stands out as a model for the city, for the state, and for the nation as well. Okay, here is our vision. Take a look at what we are when I mentioned about 3,000 square miles area, and I also ask you to pay attention to the Mineral Wells Airport. So this sits in the middle, and then Perro Field that I was just mentioning, or the AFW airport, that private airport that I mentioned. This is about 45-mile stretch. So this white corridor is going to be an experimental corridor. As I said before, if any company, whether it is Joby Aviation or Reliable Robotics, and all these are companies that are working, they're building their platforms, eVTOLs actually. So whichever company wants to engage in advanced air mobility, they will be coming here. They will be coming to Dallas. They'll be working with UNT. That is most fascinating. And I don't think in my entire career I have ever seen such a project. So this is we are in the middle. We are in the crux of this in terms of time. We demonstrated one, and we are going to continue in the next 3-4 years. And that this opportunity is very, very unique and very, very dear to me. The project is very dear to me, and plus it is. I don't think I will ever get such a chance in my career, at least. So point is, so look at this other corridor we're talking about. Most likely it will be at UNT, but otherwise there is a Denton Airport. The challenge is it's very difficult to have an airport or a vertiport on campus, but we are actually still thinking through it. It's potentially we may be able to establish an airport or a vertiport for experimental research and development purposes at UNT. That will be wonderful. But if not, we have a regional airport. So there will be another corridor from the regional airport to Perro Field, and that's about 30 miles, 25-30 miles. All these blue things that you see, these are the potential routes, commercial routes. So from DFW to Perro Field, from DFW to Frisco, from DFW to Dallas, to Arlington and Denton. So these will be you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these 7 routes, and if you include this total 8, these will be the commercial routes. So, and then this red area that we marked, this is what I was referring to, 3,000 square miles area that will be designated as what we call it as airspace laboratory. So now think about a laboratory on campus versus laboratory in the city. All right. So that was our vision, that this is happening actually. This is not something like a fiction. It's not like something that is a research paper. No, it is beyond that. We are seeing this. We are going to see this in the next 3-4 years. And another thing that we talked about is air corridors connecting urban and rural areas. I already gave you a compelling story. Why do we need this? Because to save time in bringing the emergency medical services to the victim or accident victim, for example. So either you take the victim to the hospital or bring the hospital to the person. So that is in a general high level perspective. So the corridors now become longer. And if I want to bring a person from Oklahoma, a deep rural tribal area like Broken Arrow, if you can Google and see, there are hospitals in Broken Arrow. Everywhere there are hospitals, but they cannot treat a trauma patient. So the point is, can we bring that person in a short time to a big hospital in Dallas? But to do that, the challenge is even more complex. It's very, very challenging. For example, the distance is nearly could be anywhere between 100 miles to 200 miles. That's not easy. In fact, when I wrote a proposal to NSF, somebody told, Even I give all the money that we have for this program, like CPS program, it won't be sufficient. That was one reason why the proposal got rejected. They said, all this is great, but do you think it can be done with $5 million? No. No, we can give a lot of all the money that we have, still you cannot do it. That was the comment I got. But yet, I took it like a positively, and then we're planning to resubmit. But look at this. This is our vision. We need a vertiport at UNT, at DFW. This is a MIS Mobility Innovation Zone, the same area near the area that I talked about before, Perrofield. And CNO stands for Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. So we need to have vertiports. These are going to happen slowly. It's not going to happen one day, but things are happening in from different corners of this from Dallas. In Dallas, there is some progress. There is some progress, and in Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma also they have an excellent facility. Emerging technology initiatives happening in the tribal nation. So they are building their own vertiports, their own facilities. Ultimately, we want to connect them. This project is about combining and connecting them. And we need 5G base stations at all these places. We need radar, communication and command and control link. And then one of my favorites is we want to have a pilot behavioral laboratory at UNT. So this is a vision that might be realized maybe in the next 10 years or so. It'll take a long time. Now I come to more technical aspects. Sometimes to do any research, you need a compelling story. So otherwise, you will engage in research, but it may not be motivating enough for you to pursue. So today, truly speaking, I wake up. Well, this is happening for the last several years. There is no time. In fact, all the time is taken by just this work. And one of them is autonomy. So remember, autonomy is such a wonderful thing, but it's not on its own. It needs communication support. Maybe, things like artificial intelligence, machine learning. So all those things will actually support. They're like pillars for autonomy. So remember, autonomy means an autonomous aircraft means it is flying on its own. Sometimes even without any communication with the ground control station, avoiding any obstacles, avoiding any hazards like weather, and any what you call hacking attacks. So all these things we need to survive. Then only the autonomous service is possible. So advanced air mobility is all about autonomy. Okay, so but there are compelling stories why we need this. The second important aspect is traffic management at scale. Okay, imagine there are 100 from 100 to 1,000 to 10,000. Suppose you see 10,000 drones in the airspace. How do you manage all that? So that's a big challenge. Communication support, as I told you, today the NSF solicitation calls for practical TRL 9 level demonstrations. It's not enough to write a MATLAB code and then say I'm done. No, they say your MATLAB code is only starting point, but the NSF solicitation is asking, can you take it to TRL 9, ready to embed or integrate with next generation systems? That is what we are looking for. And more importantly, air-to-air conflict management. If two vehicles come so close, I call them as close encounters, can you avoid the accident? And non-technical things, security, privacy. Of course, security, privacy, trust, these are all fuzzy things, and it's not just technical. There are other aspects. Community acceptance. If the community says, I don't want drones, then you cannot do anything. So we have to provide education, outreach activities, and develop future workforce and regulations. Even though we say sometimes many people complain, oh, FAA is very slow, but there is a good reason. We want to make sure that safety is our first criteria. So you don't want to just fly just like that. An example is Amazon tried to do this long time back, but why were not they successful? Because it needs a community effort. It's not just one company wants to do, I have a lot of money, let me try. That doesn't work. You have to work with the community. We need regulations. We need to have best practices. And of course, workforce. Now you can see clearly what is the role of universities like yours and mine, is that we have a big role to play. And here is some concepts of that we are working on. One of them is, see, I talked about autonomy. Autonomy of the platform is one thing. Autonomy of the airspace is another thing. autonomy has to be supported through infrastructure. So there are three aspects to autonomy. So here we are constructing what I call highways in the sky. This project is about highways in the sky. That means you are establishing air corridors, and somehow you are constructing these virtual paths. So, and basically you're creating a structure in the airspace. So something I want to mention here, way back, I asked one of the, there is an institute called DLR Institute. One of the professors, his name is Uwe, Professor Uwe Fiebig. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago. So I invited him and he gave a presentation and he said, the question we were asking is it possible to have a lot of vehicles? A lot of vehicles in the sense, suppose you imagine that every person in the city has a flying car. So look at this. Every person has a flying car, just like the way we have our own cars. Can you support that? Is it possible to support one flying car for everybody in the airspace? He said, his conclusion is interesting. He said, as long as we have a structure in the airspace, it is possible. Just like the way highways on the ground, subways for trains, if you have a structured airspaces, then it is possible to have, then every person can have a flying car and we can make the traffic manageable. So that is what we are looking for. We are looking for structure in the airspace. Because of lack of time, I won't get into that. And I'll show you imagine that there are vehicles flying on a regular routes. Then these are the potential things that can happen. A vehicle might see some airspace hazard. A vehicle can encounter a airspace hazard. Then what do? It needs to talk to the ground. It needs to talk to the other vehicles. And what do we need? Vehicle-to-vehicle communication. So I'm trying to make a case for why do we need vehicle-to-vehicle communication, drone-to-drone communication. As I told you, 10 years back, it was nobody said there's no interest. But today, the industry is eagerly looking for this. In fact, now all we have today is only minimum requirements. We know requirements, but we don't have the protocols. And by the way, there are two things that come in. One is called collision avoidance. Second is called detect and avoid. So detect and avoid is something for the things like this. If there is a cloud, you need to avoid it. Whereas if you have a vehicle, then we have to avoid the collision. So sometimes vehicles are cooperative, sometimes they are not. And finally, I want to show you some of how many things, sometimes we're not able to do small things because they're very actively pursuing these projects. Couple of phase 2 SBIRs. We completed 2 grants from NCT and we are currently working on 3rd. And one standard was already released called IEEE 1920.1. Right now we are working on 1920.2, that is for V2V. We have patents filing, and a lot of companies are we are spinning off many companies. And one big challenge, is a good thing to do, good thing to happen. All my students are getting jobs. It's very difficult for me to keep them in the job, keep them at the university. So, but at the same time, it's a wonderful pipeline of workforce we're able to achieve. And then I submitted one DURIP because we need a lot of infrastructure here. So it's so exciting, there is no single boring day, I can tell. And then, so what I wanted to show here is that advanced air mobility is adding a new dimension of mobility. It's not an ordinary thing. It's possible that you will actually take a air taxi to go to work. And my friends actually joke. They say Kamesh is looking for a vertiport or a helipad next to his office and next to his home. And that's not a far-fetched. It might happen in the next couple of years. And then, yes, I am very proud to say that we have been at the forefront of this. And I will go ahead and claim that actually I put my region or my university at the forefront of advanced air mobility. And I at least facilitated to make things happen in my neighborhood. And then this partnership is so fulfilling. It's not something that on the paper. It's a real thing that is happening. And wonderful outreach activities, education, workforce, these things are happening. And they are forming the pillars for success. And again, notice, we haven't done much. It's just starting. This is just starting, and of course, we have done a foundational work in 2022, but now the real work is starting. So that is what I wanted to talk about. I'm thinking if I missed anything, yeah, but not. So now I'm ready for the at least 10 minutes questions. Time is there for, I think, yeah, 10 minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Kamesh, for a very nice presentation and how you took us from the history of the problem until where you're doing now. What you're doing now, I really appreciate it. Any question from the audience?
Oh, hello.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
sir.
Hi. So just to make it clear, so this whole effort is pretty much just like a bit more localized version of air traffic control and setting up like air infrastructure in like more localized settings like within cities or rural areas.
You are correct. In the
Oh,
sense, but make sure note that it is still it's a distributed system. Think of like a distributed system where every region, like for example, every city will have its own maybe one or two traffic management systems. In fact, I didn't talk a lot about this. The term that we use is called provider of services for UAM. It's called PSU. And another important factor is the involvement of FAA, like air traffic control system, is very minimal. They are going to provide supervision only. They will share their systems. They will open their systems, and we can connect to them and see, for example, what is the commercial traffic in the city at any given time. And you can also share your flight plan and say, oh, is it? Do you approve it? Is there any conflict? You can do all those automatically. However, they don't engage. It's a private industry that needs to be responsible for traffic management. So at the same time, there are ways and means to connect with other regions. For example, suppose there is a flight coming from Oklahoma to Dallas, and Oklahoma has their own traffic management system, a regional so what you call local traffic management system, in your words. And Dallas also has that, but they can talk to each other through a platform called DSS. It is called Data Synchronization and Service. So basically, maybe my expansion is not exact, may not be exact, but point is DSS is a system that synchronizes the activities between among the regions. So we have those kind of things in place. So in other words, what I'm suggesting is that this is a distributed traffic management system, not centralized.
okay. Another question is, does this like uh impact or like govern sort of like private drone management or like private drone operations such as like like hobbyists or people like doing drone operations for like construction and that kind of thing? Would that be involved?
Yeah, but they need to be cognizant of the traffic. And I'll give you a good example. We thought about this very early. We reached out to public safety people like um, police and law enforcement agencies. We told them, hey, you better start engaging with us early. So now we are developing protocols and ways and means to give preference to law enforcement while all these commercial drone deliveries are happening. How can a law enforcement agency can send a drone for investigating a crime, for example, or maybe accident scene, or providing, in fact, maybe services for the people in that who are in accident scene. So look at this. You can even a hobbyist, it's not possible for them to fly without without legitimate permissions. So they're still evolving, but we have started already. We started this process. So today, law enforcement agencies in Dallas-Fort Worth area have a ways and means to send their vehicle at any given time, and all other commercial vehicles will be giving right of way for the law enforcement agency vehicle.
Last question I've got is so I know you talked about drones and helicopters. Is there any other like air infrastructure or aircraft that you have in mind with with these systems?
Yeah, we are using these terms like drone colloquially, and then UAV or UAS or eVTOL. So basically, um, I should have shown a picture, but look at this. There are two levels of engagement here. Small drones weighing under 55 pounds, delivering like small packets, which is happening right now in Dallas, by the way. In Dallas area and maybe some other cities, there are drone deliveries that are happening. I'll tell you a small story about that in a minute. The key thing is that is one thing. Okay. The other thing is these air taxis that I'm talking about. Air taxis go about 10 times higher altitude, anywhere between from 4,000 onwards. So there are two types of services. So when I use drones, typically it is for small deliveries, small drones weighing under 55 pounds. But when we talk about air taxis, we're talking about like helicopter sized vehicles. Um, and again, sometimes fixed wing aircraft also might be involved, and especially for other applications like I only focused on transportation, but think about agriculture and other scenarios like inspections. So those vehicles are very localized, but still they need to be cognizant, and also maybe we need to be cognizant. In fact, it's really the responsibility of drone delivery companies to make sure that they know what is happening in local areas. But in terms of platforms, only certain vehicles that are capable of performing the way we expect will be allowed to fly in AAM corridors. Hope it makes sense.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Kamesh. We have like only 2 minutes. Do you have room for a very quick question?
Hi, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, I would like to, first of all, thank you so much for the insight. There is a there's a lot of work going on in this particular area, as per my understanding. So I would like to know, in case you're hiring, what would be the skill set which you would be mostly looking for, specifically for that particular project, and moreover, or domain specific, whatever it is. It would be great if you can give a insight towards that.
Now, if you think about companies like Joby Aviation or Airbus or Bell, by the way, Bell, as of now, I heard yesterday that they have a huge project called some defense related project, and they are hiring like left and right now in Dallas. It's called Bell Aircraft
Okay.
or Bell Textron. Okay. So what they're looking for is at this point, if you say that my friend told me, it's interestingly if you say you're worked in aviation, that's good enough because they really need people. They need at least 1,000 people, I believe. So the main point is suddenly it is just evolving in front of us, and we are not ready. We don't have a workforce plan. Actually, we don't even have a plan.
Correct.
So universities are not ready. We need to come up with certification programs. I think that's the best way to train. So in terms of qualifications, like it's about everybody has an opportunity. Electrical engineering, embedded systems, hardware experience. Like for example, how to build a transponder, how to build the sensor, all the sensors. How to integrate the sensor data for autonomous flights. So that is one category. That's one thing, hardware part. On the software side, there are a lot of services, like traffic management is a service, then weather modeling. So that we need scientists actually to do weather modeling, for example. I mean, not only engineering, other disciplines, mathematicians. So we need those kind of people. But at this point, I'll give you a recent experience. One of my students is looking for a job. She was interviewing for a company called some company like I believe it's Sky Grid or something. But they were asking her to go to the board and write a Python code. So still there is a lot of coding jobs that are required.
Okay. So what skills would you be more keen to look at? Like what would mostly interest you in case you're hiring? What is it you'd be looking for in a person?
Yeah, not like think about first of all, autonomous platform, right? So it requires mechanical, more like, not just purely mechanical engineer with programming, mechanical engineer who can actually work with electrical engineers. So that kind of cross-disciplinary expertise is required.
Correct. Okay. Got it, sir.
So platform design means engineers, right? And then traffic
Yes, sir.
management, autonomy, of course, requires a lot of programming. And finally, there is something called, of course, we still do not have a clear understanding of what AI can do. Okay.
Correct.
So the point is, there is a paper, white paper from the FAA, AI for aviation. They are just developing a roadmap. So a lot of things are going to be coming in future. So AI has a role. LLMs have a role. So it's about applying our traditional skills, or traditional engineering or science skills towards aviation.
Okay. Got it, sir. Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you, Kamesh, for the very insightful presentation, for your time, for being available to do this webinar. Again, on behalf of Chicago State University, we're really appreciative for your time, and looking forward to connecting with you in the future, and also
Yes.
for the audience.
Sure. I'll be happy to share the slides, so we can.
Please.
Or maybe you have the video anyway, so that's good.
Yeah, if you can share the slides also, would be great. Maybe we can
I will do
provide them for those who are interested.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, and I enjoyed the presentation. I hope everything is same with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.